All right, let's jump right in. Picture a weapon from ancient mythology, a spinning disk of pure energy, glowing on the tip of a finger, just humming with power. For thousands of years, we've called this magic. But what if it isn't? What if we're actually looking at a blueprint for a piece of technology so advanced we're only just now starting to catch up? Today, we're decoding the Sudarshan Chakra.
You know, the ancient texts describe this thing in the most epic terms possible. It wasn't just some piece of metal you'd throw. No, this was a cosmic weapon, an absolute last resort. It was this object of terrifying power that would seek out its target, deal with the threat, and then, and this is the craziest part, it would just come back.
So let's break that down. There are two huge, legendary features of this weapon that seem to just laugh in the face of physics as we know it. And this is where the real mystery starts.
Okay, so you have an unstoppable cutting force and a guaranteed return to sender feature. Now, sure, mythology chalks this up to divine power, and that's that. But if you're an engineer looking at this list, you're not seeing magic. You're seeing the design specs for an incredibly advanced gyroscopic projectile.
So, first things first, how do you get a thrown disc to fly perfectly straight and true? How do you give it enough focused energy to slice through armor instead of just, wobbling and dropping like a stone? Well, the secret isn't magic. It's all about physics.
Just look at the difference here. You take a plain old metal disc and you throw it without any spin, it's useless. It's going to flutter, it's going to fall, but give that same disc an insanely high-speed spin and it becomes a whole different animal. Suddenly, it's incredibly stable, it resists anything trying to knock it off course, and that spinning edge, it becomes a seriously deadly cutting blade.
And yeah, there's a fancy scientific name for this: conservation of angular momentum. This is the absolute core principle that would give the chakra its legendary stability. Basically, the faster something spins, the more it wants to keep going in a straight line. And this isn't some weird abstract theory. It's the same exact principle behind a lot of tech you see every single day.
Seriously, think about it. Little kid's spinning top that just balances perfectly on its tip? That's it. The gyroscope inside your phone that knows which way is up? Same thing. Or how about the rifling inside a gun barrel that spins a bullet so it flies dead straight? It's all the same principle. The Sudarshan Chakra's unstoppable flight is just this idea cranked up to 11.
Okay, so we figured out the stability part. A super fast spin makes it a perfect, deadly projectile. Fine. But that brings us to the biggest question of all. How in the world does it come back?
We actually know how a boomerang does it. And it's not magic, it's just brilliant aerodynamics. See, its wings are shaped kind of like an airplane's. As it spins through the air, the top wing's actually moving faster than the bottom wing. This creates an uneven lift, more lift on top than the bottom, and that imbalance is what forces its flight path to curve all the way back to you.
And here is the massive problem. The chakra is always described as a perfect, flawless, symmetrical circle. It doesn't have that bent boomerang shape. It doesn't have airfoil wings. It's a weapon designed for perfect, linear, straight-line stability, which is the exact opposite of what you need for a curving, returning flight.
Right? The physics just don't add up. Conventional aerodynamics, the very thing that makes a boomerang work, simply cannot explain the chakra's most famous, most magical ability. There has to be something else going on. Another piece to this puzzle.
So to solve this return problem, we've got to look way beyond simple aerodynamics. We have to start thinking in the much more advanced realm of active guidance systems.
And this right here is the key. The ancient texts give us a huge hint. They don't say the weapon just naturally comes back. They're very specific. They say it is actively guided by the will or the mind of the user.
And what the ancients called will, well, today we have a name for that too. It's called a brain-computer interface, or a BCI. And believe me, this isn't science fiction anymore. It is rapidly becoming science fact.
I mean, right now, in 2026, we have headsets that can read your brainwaves and turn them into commands for a computer. We have actual drones that can be steered just by thinking. And come on, we've had homing missiles for decades that lock onto a target and won't give up. The basic tech to guide a projectile with a signal is already here.
So, when you look at it through that lens, the chakra's return trip suddenly makes sense. It's not a passive trick of aerodynamics, it's an active, guided maneuver. The weapon hits its target, and then, on a mental command from its user, it gets a new instruction: come back. It was, for all intents and purposes, a smart weapon.
So when you put all the pieces together,
the hardcore physics of spin, and the futuristic concept of neural control, the Sudarshan Chakra completely transforms. It stops being some magical artifact from a story and starts looking like the blueprint for a mind-blowingly sophisticated piece of tech.
Let's just run through the tech specs. For stability, you've got gyroscopic principles giving it that perfect flight path and cutting power. For guidance, you've got a brain-computer interface for pinpoint control and a recall command. What you're left with isn't just a weapon, it's a whole system. It's a user-authenticated, mind-controlled, gyroscopic smart drone.
So, what do you think? Was the Sudarshan Chakra really divine magic, a gift from the gods that we can never hope to understand? Or was it a piece of technology so far ahead of its time that the only word people had for it back then was magic? Maybe that line between the two is a lot blurrier than we've always been told.